Bookcase and Coffee presents Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance.
Welcome to A Quick Shot of Romance. I'm Becky, and with me on this Quick Shot of Romance is Heather. You can find her as MN Hockey Mom Reads on Instagram, Minnesota Hockey Mom. Welcome to the podcast, Heather.
Hey, Becky, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you. I'm always happy to get to chat books with you. It's like my favorite thing. And do you know that my husband refers to you as my stalker number one? You
Well,
were like,
I can see that.
you were one of my first Bookstagram friends. And so whenever I'll say like, oh yeah, Heather sent me this, and he'll be like, Heather. I'm like, Heather. And
Stalker
he's like,
one.
oh, stalker number one. I'm like, okay, great.
Yeah, no, I love hockey. I love talking books with you, but I also love that you like hockey romance probably as much as I do. But the only thing that bugs me is that every single time I talk to you, and I think some of our other friends will agree, is that our TBR list grows exponentially. So that it's like never ending the amount of books we want to read.
I know. I
That's-
feel
it's not a
slightly
bad thing.
I feel slightly guilty about it because like I'll get a random message from someone that'll be like, okay, yeah, after that conversation, I now got 16 more books added to my TBR. And I'm always like, sorry, but not
Totally.
sorry.
I know. Sorry, but not sorry, really.
Yeah. I was talking with
fine.
I was talking with somebody the other day, and I was talking about all the historical romances that I've read in the past that I just love. And they were like, oh, I've really been reading since like 2016. And I'm like, oh, well, I've been reading since 1990. So yeah. You got a couple years to gain.
Yeah, and I've been reading a long time too, but now that my kids are older, I can dedicate a little bit more time. So, and being a teacher, I read mostly in the summer. So the amount of books that I was able to read is a lot less than I read now. So
right.
yeah.
Okay, so
Whatever.
tell everyone what we're talking about on this Quick Shot of Romance.
So today we are going to talk about a new hockey series, and the title of the book is called Sweet Talker by Gina Azzi. This is a new series. This is book one in this. They're from Boston.
Yeah. So the synopsis from Goodreads is I've sworn off hockey players until the pregnancy test turns pink. Noah Scott is revered in Boston, a veritable god on the ice. I'm a nerdy, newly minted college professor who would rather color code my planner than hit the club scene. Noah shouldn't look at me twice, but when he does, I falter. Who can blame me? The sweet talker with the deliciously chiseled abs and sinful chocolate eyes is a force, on and off the ice. One hot and intense night with Noah has me second guessing my lack of dating life. Friends with benefits? He offers, I dive in headfirst. Growing up in a hockey family, I know better than to get serious with a player. But the more time I spend getting to know Noah, the more my intention to keep things casual rings false. Now I've got a hopeful heart and a baby on the way. I just need to tell Noah, but when I do, will I end up with everything I never knew I wanted or on my own? So
Yeah, it was really good. This has popped up on my Instagram for a while. So when you were talking about doing this, I was like, oh, just another excuse for me to read a hockey romance.
right.
And I was really intrigued by it, especially a brand new series. I've never read anything by this author. So she was a new to me author as well.
Same here. Yeah. So tell everybody release date, tropes, and steam levels.
Okay, so the release date was January 27th, 2021. The trope is friends with benefits, friends to lovers, hockey romance, and surprise baby. We kind of had talked about this. We kind of left the steam level at a 2 or a 3, pretty mild steam. I would say if you're new to romance and you're not 100% sure you want a lot of details in your intimate scenes, this would be a really good place for you to start. It's not real steamy, but it's there.
but there's lots of flirting, which sometimes
Mhm.
sometimes you can have a little bit of steam even if the characters are just flirting. So
Totally. I agree.
let's get into this and tell everybody kind of what this was about. So Indiana is the main female lead, and everybody calls her Indy. She is the daughter of a professional hockey player. She had her heart broken by a professional hockey player.
And the way that Gina describes Indy's dad is like he's like Wayne Gretzky. He's like kind of like a hockey god. And like all of the hockey players kind of look up to him. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of it.
And he has like a really good reputation amongst even
Yep.
the younger players. They idolize him.
Yep.
He was a good guy of hockey. He didn't have like any bad boy personas or
Mm-mm.
anything like that, which is always, I always love when that kind of, happens with when the player, like her dad's a good guy. So he
Totally.
set the bar kind of high for her. So dad's a hockey player. She had her heart broken by a professional hockey player. And her cousin and another cousin is married to a hockey player. So Indy's life is all hockey all the time.
Yeah, I loved Indy. Like she is one of those girls that you're like, I wish we could be like friends in real life. She's so smart and really driven and very accomplished. She got a professor job in Boston. So she moved to Boston and she's young. She has a PhD. She's very, very passionate about her job and just kind of like thinking about her family. Her parents moved from Florida to Boston so they could be with her and she's an adult. And it was like not weird because that's just how her family rolls.
Well, and I loved that aspect of this story. So a lot of times, part of the reason I love hockey romances is the feeling of a group, of a friendship, of the team and this community. So this book had that, but it also had this like huge sense, like a secondary depth to it of her family. Indy's family is amazing in this story. The aunt and uncle that is, and I'm not exactly sure how the aunt and uncle, if they're related to Indy's mom or they're related to Indy's dad. I don't think it's ever clear like where the family line is.
I think it's the dad's because the uncle is a former NHL player too. And so Austin, the cousin, has the same last name, the American name as Indy. And then Noah, Scotch, who is the love interest, is a hockey player on the Boston team. And Noah and his brother play on the same team, and they've kind of grown up with Indy's cousin, and they've done hockey camps. And so they spent a lot of time together. And Noah didn't come from like a family like Indy's, and so he really looks to Indy's family like he really wants to be a part of it, and he looks up to them and kind of wants to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, the family dynamic in this story was amazing, and it's part of what just keeps you going along in this story is because you just don't know what kind of shenanigans the family is going to pull next. And so so then there's Noah, and he had kind of a rough life. His brother, who is also his teammate, is currently in rehab fighting addiction. And so that kind of plays into why Noah is trying to keep things just on the friend level with Indy, because he really feels like he has to be able to keep himself available to help keep his brother,
right,
on the straight and narrow and not fall off the wagon. So he's got a lot on his plate. Noah does,
totally
pro hockey player, worried about his brother and teammate. And
he just got out of a relationship. Like he was like supposed to be married, and his fiance like all of a sudden was like, you're not stable enough for me, and so I'm done. And like up and leaves him for someone else. And it sounds like, if I remember correctly, she got married like super quick. So
Right.
he
Well,
was
she
not
cheated on
100%
him.
sure. Right.
She cheated on him, and I think they refer to her new husband as like the pleated khaki pants guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, wears the Dockers and super like straight laced, but she couldn't handle his travel. She couldn't handle his, the life of being with a hockey player. And so for the 6 months up and until he and Indy reconnect, he has been indulging in the occasional puck bunny, um, one night stands, nothing that requires anything of him. Because I just don't think he feels
Very
like he has
surface
anything to
level.
give. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. And I love Indy's cousin Claire. So how this all starts is Claire is this riot. She's, again, like somebody you want to hang out with. She decides that she is going to drag Indy out because Indy's like a studious girl. She doesn't party much. Basically drags Indy and crashes this NHL party because her brother's the captain. And the girls just show up and they're like, hey, everybody.
Yeah,
and
it
all
was
the hockey
so
players
funny.
are like, is that Indy Merrick? Like, and Noah's like, where did she come from? Because she's gorgeous.
Yeah, and I just I loved Claire. She was a hoot. She kind of was not so, she kept Indy from just being a stick in the mud surface level character. I think because of the type of character Claire was, she pulled out Claire pulled out Indy's personality. We kind of got to see a little bit more of her passion and such.
Yep.
And the other character that I love so much, and now I am not going to remember his name, is Noah's teammate that is the guy that goes to lunch with them. Oh my God. Is he the goalie, I think? He is.
No, his book is book 3.
Okay, so I loved his
up.
character. While you look it up, I loved his character because, and now I feel bad I can't remember his name. He was he kept pushing Noah and saying, there is more to life, and he kind of had this sadness about him. He's Swedish, and he's at the end of his career, like, he's getting ready to the point where he won't be playing anymore. And eventually he's going to go back to Sweden because if he's not playing hockey, he can't stay in the States. And he just was such a great like friend and voice. What's his name?
Torsten. His name is Torsten. Yeah, he definitely was like, listen, you might think that you and Indy are just like friends with benefits and you're having fun. But it's not that. And same with Noah's brother, Easton. They were like, you're not seeing this, are you? And Torsten kept saying to Noah, like, Indy isn't the girl you have a friends with benefits relationship. That's not who she is. Like, she's the girl you marry. She's not the girl you...
Yeah, just dink around with. Yeah. So let's talk about the friends with benefit trope, because this is an incredibly hard trope to do. It requires the author to think about all the pitfalls and prepare the reader for them. And it has to be done in a way that makes the most sense. So for this one, that Indy, Noah's career is going to be the problem because she has said from day one, she is not dating hockey players. She doesn't date hockey players. She had her heart broken. She doesn't trust hockey players. She also, while she has a great family life, she was an only child and they lived 9 years in Florida when she was young. But then her dad's career, he got traded and it went off, and she saw her mother going from one place to another with her dad. So, it has to be done in such a way that it makes sense. So overall, how do you think Gina did on the friends with benefit romantic trope?
I agree. I think it's a very hard trope to do. And I think anybody that really goes into a friends with benefits relationship, the reason they do is because they feel comfortable with each other. And so that is super evident with Indy and Noah. Like, Noah's like, I just really like hanging out with you and I really like talking with you. and they like plan dates, like not dates. They don't call them dates. They're like, let's hang out. So he plans a day to see his side of Boston, and then she kind of shows him her side of Boston, and it's like you kind of see this where you're like, you two have, this is a relationship because you enjoy each other. That's like what a relationship is. And it's just kind of funny because I think in the end, obviously they were seeing it. Noah was totally, I think was so focused on that isn't what Indy wanted, and that he didn't want to hold her back.
Yeah. I think that these two, in my opinion, Indy and Noah, are what I would call romance gold. Like, this is the setup when you go into a romance story that you're not sure if it's going to work or not. And when it works big. And in this story, while we did have Indy's friend, Aiden, that moved to Boston and came from Florida, her best friend, it was Indy and Noah that got in the way of their happily ever after. They didn't achieve HEA because they were too busy being in each other's way, in their own way. Like,
and everyone around them is like, what are you missing here? Like, and at one point, Noah says to her dad, like, I know this isn't what you want for her. And he's like, I just want her to be happy.
Right.
And it's, like, I think she was so stuck in the fact that she didn't think she could be happy married to a hockey player, when in reality, like, her whole life was hockey. Like, that was one of the things that all the guys loved about her. She's sitting at this bar with all of these NHL players, and she's telling them, like, oh, you need to pass the puck sooner, or you're doing this. And they're all like, how do you know this? And she's like, because I watch hockey.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, will you marry me?
Right. Well, and Noah,
she doesn't see it.
She doesn't. And Noah, he made me so frustrated because he didn't say the words he needed to say. He just kind of moved around them and never saying them. And because of the type of person that Indy is, she needed the words. She needed him to articulate his thoughts and his feelings and not just be a stupid jock. Because he totally has some stupid jock moments.
For sure. For sure. He also doesn't think that he's worthy. Like, I think that's what it comes down to, is that he saw Indy, that she was so kind of with it. She has a college degree, she has a PhD, she has a big girl job, she's accomplished. And he's like, I just play hockey. But not really thinking about all the things that he has to do, like, the dedication that he has to play hockey, and how, not very many people can play hockey. And so I think he never really thought of himself as worthy, and everyone around him knows that he's more than a hockey player. I mean, he's very caring, and he's compassionate, and he's a caretaker is what he is. And he thinks about others all the time.
For sure. For sure. I had a couple of just storyline issues in this book that I really love, like, storyline movement, story being pushed forward. One of the things that has slowly started to come about is I look at character development a little bit more. And I do feel like both Noah and Indy were a little stunted in their development. Like, we didn't see any really big moments of, like, self-awareness or change. And ones that we did get weren't until almost the end. And it took, in the blurb, the author alludes to the pregnancy, which, it doesn't happen until 80% into the book that she has this surprise pregnancy. So the fact that it's mentioned in the blurb almost spoils the story.
Yeah, I was like waiting and waiting and waiting for it. And I'm like, I thought this was a surprise pregnancy, because on your Kindle, it says a percentage.
Yeah, so I think that there were just some little bit of character development issues. Another issue was there is not a ton of hockey or team play of hockey in this book. But I will say it is clear that the book is starting at the beginning or right at the end of preseason, the beginning of the season.
Right.
So, the author is very clear to state that, but there's not a ton of, there's little bits of team camaraderie, but there's just not a ton of hockey in this story.
No, and I will say I agree. And I like some hockey because I really like when if an author does a really good job, I mean, I know hockey, so if they kind of talk about the, how it works on the ice and, calls and things like that, I really like that because
No,
I like
and I do
hockey.
too. I like, and like I said, part of the reason I'm drawn to these sports romances, I like the team dynamic. I like seeing how the character interacts with friends. That's probably part of the reason that a lot of the contemporary romance ones that I'm drawn to are friends groups or families because I like seeing those interactions with other people. I get so frustrated when it's just like one guy and his best friend. Okay. Or the guy
Right.
has no friends. I can't tell you how many romances I've read where she has a best friend and he really doesn't have any friends. He might have like
Anyone.
a colleague. And it's like, that's not really real life. You would have someone in your life, be it even your dad, for goodness sakes, that you talk to.
Right. And I actually was finding myself reading this book thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait for, like I want Austin's book. And it's not listed that Austin has a book, but I'm like, I really hope Austin has a book because I can just tell he's going to be like a great alpha male and he is going to fall hard. But she sets up the next two books in the series really well. So she sets it up with Easton and Claire coming up, and then Torsten and somebody. And so, like I said, I pre-ordered the rest of the books because I don't want to wait. I want to find out what's happening.
Okay, so we're hitting our mark. Let's do our recs here. So as I've said in previous quick shot episodes, one of the things that we've changed up a little bit is we're no longer using the 5-star rating system because Becky hates it. Yay! So, first of all, we're just going to ask 3 questions and we'll both kind of answer them, and here we go. So Heather, did you like the book?
I did. I really liked it. And like I said, I pre-ordered the rest in the series. So yes, I did like it a lot.
I like this book too, and I totally would recommend it if somebody's looking to get into hockey romance. I would say this is a great first book. It's light, it's sweet, it's enough romance to bring you in. You'll get the taste and feel for what a hockey romance is like, and hopefully we'll get a little more hockey, maybe some steamier romance in the next couple books, because I think the next one's going to be really explosive.
Yeah, I do too. I think about like my hockey mom friends, they know that I read, and they were a little surprised that there were hockey romances, and I was like, oh, you should read them. And so I think that this would be something that I would recommend to my friends that they're not 100% sure they like the steamy stuff. And so I think this is a great, like you said, starter series for somebody,
Yeah, that's the next question. Who would typically like this kind of book? So probably someone that swings closer to the sweeter romances, that likes a little steam, but not like full out, holy goodness, I need a shower kind of steam.
Right. Yeah, and it's not to say that Indy and Noah don't have a really strong connection, because it's like you said, there's a lot of flirting, and the way that she kind of describes, the way they affect each other. I mean, I think that this is a great quick read for somebody that's into romance and maybe hasn't read a hockey romance before, but would like to try it. This would be a good book to start with.
Yeah. And so that's next. Who would you recommend this book? Is this a book that you were like, someone's like, oh, I need a new read? Is this one that you would recommend out?
Yeah, I would recommend. I posted it on my Instagram. I think you had gotten an arc, or we were talking about doing this, and so I ordered the book and I posted it on my Instagram that I was reading it, and yeah, I really liked it. I haven't posted anything about it since, because I wanted to talk to you about this before I posted it. But yeah, I would recommend it.
Yeah, to me,
actually,
this is Noah
is on he made my Minnesota Hockey Mom All-Star Book Boyfriend team.
That's right, he did. I forgot. Yeah, that episode will have dropped the Sunday. Well, actually, 2 weeks ago when this one will drop. So this episode should drop February 18th, and our hockey episode dropped on February the 7th. So
awesome. So, I mean, obviously, I like Noah if I kind of put him on one of my lines, right?
Right. I really liked. This is my first time reading this author, and I really enjoyed her writing style. It was clean. I didn't feel like she filled the pages with nonsense. Everything she chose to do with the characters made sense. And it didn't feel like filler. So this is an author I will go back to.
Yeah, when she was kind of talking about Indy's job, Indy is really into economics, and kind of how she was talking about it, it was really clear she did a lot of research on the topic. And so for me, I respect that as an author who is really interested in her character development and kind of put some time into it. So I thought I agree. I would like to read her again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for joining me for this quick shot of romance.
No
cheers
problem.
Until next
Anytime.
time.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.